7:18 a.m. local time. The Caribbean Sea is almost too calm, the kind of calm experienced sailors notice before anyone says a word. The surface is flat, the wind is light, and visibility stretches far beyond 10 nautical miles. For a U.S. Navy carrier strike group, these are ideal operating conditions. Clear water, clear skies, clear radar picture. Nothing unusual, nothing hidden, nothing that should raise concern until the screen begins to change. Inside the Combat Information Center aboard USS George Washington, the quiet routine is broken by a radar operator's voice. Contact bearing 2110, multiple surface returns. Not one vessel, not two. 5 contacts appear almost at the same time, moving in a pattern too organized to be mistaken for ordinary maritime traffic. Initial range, 21 nautical miles. Speed steady. Course closing directly across the strike group's planned route. No one laughs. No one asks twice. Civilian ships do not move like that. On the bridge, the captain studies the tactical display without changing posture. The carrier, more than 100,000 tons of steel, holds its course and speed. No early turn, no sudden acceleration, no visible sign of uncertainty. In the U.S. Navy, reacting too soon can send the wrong message. Automated classification systems begin sorting the contacts. Hull shape, superstructure layout, radar profile, the answer comes quickly. Venezuelan Navy, 5 vessels, mixed formation. The range drops to 16 nautical miles. The surface warfare officer reports in a calm, controlled voice. Formation indicates deliberate intercept course. This is not a distant shadow, not an escort, not a harmless parallel track. It is a blocking pattern designed to cross ahead of the carrier, limit room to maneuver, and pressure the strike group into responding without pushing the situation into open confrontation. USS George Washington sends the first call over the International Bridge-to-Bridge channel. Unidentified Venezuelan naval vessels. This is a United States Navy ship operating in international waters. State your intentions. No response, no static, no broken transmission, just silence. Range 12 nautical miles. Across the strike group, electronic support systems come alive. Venezuelan search radars are now clearly active. Every signal is detected, studied, and recorded. Frequencies, pulse patterns, power levels, each detail is timestamped and stored. Inside the CIC, the mood tightens, not with panic, but with focus. This is the kind of moment crews train for again and again. A situation where every movement matters, every signal is saved, and every decision may carry meaning far beyond the horizon. A junior officer speaks quietly. Recommend course adjustment. The answer comes immediately. Negative. Maintain heading USS. George Washington continues straight ahead, not out of pride, not out of provocation, out of doctrine. International law, rules of engagement, and operational advantage all support holding course. Turning now would not simply reduce risk, it would change the message of the entire encounter. Through long-range optics, the 5 Venezuelan ships are now visible. Gray hulls, low profiles, older platforms moving with deliberate purpose. This is not a navigation mistake. It is a test of timing, restraint, and resolve. A test to see whether a U.S. carrier will shift first under pressure. Range 8 nautical miles. No dramatic alarm sound. No visible escalation appears on deck. Flight operations remain secured below. From the outside, the sea still looks calm, but beneath that calm, every system is awake. USS George Washington does not answer with noise or sudden movement. It answers with awareness. Every bearing change, every radar sweep, every second of silence is being documented. The carrier does not need to turn to show control. Its presence already speaks loudly enough. Then, quietly, an internal order moves through the ship. Log everything. Shift to condition monitoring. From that moment on, the encounter is no longer routine. It is becoming an official record. And at sea, records have consequences. The distance continues to close. 8 nautical miles becomes 7, then 6. The Venezuelan formation grows tighter, each ship making small, careful heading changes. No sudden turns, no erratic movement. This is controlled navigation carried out with intent. Inside the Combat Information Center, the plot updates second by second. 5 surface contacts, now clearly identified as Venezuelan naval vessels, maneuver to bracket the carrier's projected path. 2 ships move slightly ahead. 3 remain offset, spreading laterally to widen the formation. It is a classic blocking pattern. From a distance, it may look quiet. 5 gray hulls moving across blue water. No smoke, no visible threats, no chaos. But at sea, geometry matters. And this geometry is unmistakable. The Venezuelan vessels are not escorting. They are not merely observing. They are positioning to deny space. At 5 nautical miles, their intent is no longer unclear. A second call is transmitted, firm and controlled. Venezuelan naval vessels, you are approaching a United States Navy carrier operating in international waters. Maintain safe distance and alter course immediately. Again, no reply. But something does change. Two of the Venezuelan ships increase speed, rising several knots above the others. The move compresses the formation and sharpens the intercept angle. Their bows now point slightly across the carrier's starboard side, reducing the available sea room. In U.S. Navy terms, this is tactical pressure. A smaller force uses positioning, timing, and proximity to force acknowledgement from a larger one. The goal is not contact. The goal is reaction. On the bridge of USS George Washington, the watch team remains steady. The helm orders do not change. The carrier keeps its line, leaving a clean white wake behind it as it moves straight ahead. The reasoning is simple. The vessel with the clearer picture does not give up space without a reason. Below decks, the strike group's sensors are fully active. Electronic warfare teams track every signal. Surface warfare officers mark every maneuver. Nothing is treated as random. Each movement is studied as part of a larger pattern. The Venezuelan ships begin using their radars more aggressively. The energy spikes are obvious. This is not quiet navigation. They are actively building their own surface picture. And at the same time, they are being observed just as closely. A short exchange passes through the Combat Information Center. Closest point of approach projected under 1 nautical mile if current courses are maintained. That is close. Close enough to attract attention. Close enough to create questions. Close enough to test the discipline of everyone involved. Still, no alarm sound. The carrier does not turn. Instead, the record continues to grow. At 4 nautical miles, the visual picture becomes sharper. Deck crews can be seen aboard the Venezuelan vessels. Movement near the forward sections. Nothing openly aggressive, but nothing casual either. This is not a simple misunderstanding. It is a message. For Venezuela, the calculation is partly political and partly tactical. A direct incident with a U.S. carrier would be dangerous and costly. But creating pressure, drawing attention, and forcing Washington to take notice has value of its own. For the U.S. Navy, the calculation is different. Every unnecessary movement could raise the temperature. Every dramatic signal could be misunderstood. Control is not shown through display. It is shown through discipline. The carrier's presence already shapes the space around it. At 3 nautical miles, one Venezuelan ship moves slightly ahead of the formation. It is now clearly trying to pass across the carrier's bow. The maneuver is slow and controlled, but its meaning is impossible to miss. Inside the CIC, the voices remain calm. Contact altering course. Intent consistent with bow crossing. Roger. Continue monitoring. There is no urgency in the reply because in moments like this, urgency can spread quickly. Above deck, the sea remains calm. From far away, it may look like nothing more than ships passing through open water. But beneath that calm surface, every second is being recorded. Every action is being preserved. The Venezuelan ships are applying pressure. The U.S. Navy is choosing not to react visibly, and that contrast begins to define the entire encounter. Because at sea, the side trying to force movement is not always the side in control. Sometimes real control belongs to the side that refuses to move at all. As the distance keeps closing, the most striking thing aboard USS George Washington is what does not happen. No alarms, no sudden course changes, no raised voices on the bridge. The carrier remains steady, its bow cutting through the calm Caribbean water, while the engines hold a constant rhythm. To someone watching from the outside, it might look passive. To anyone who understands U.S. Navy operations, it is something very different. It is control. Inside the Combat Information Center, the full picture is already clear. Every Venezuelan vessel is tracked with precision. Bearing, speed, turning rate, sensor activity. Nothing is guessed. Nothing is left to chance. The strike group's awareness reaches far beyond what the eye can see, supported by satellites, passive sensors, and networked systems operating quietly in the background. This is how the Navy prefers to manage moments like this. Quietly, precisely, without unnecessary display. A report moves across the consoles. Air picture clean. No fast movers. No rotary wing launch detected. That matters. The absence of air activity tells its own story. Venezuela is applying pressure, but doing it carefully. Close enough to provoke attention, not close enough to justify a stronger response. On the flight deck, there is still no visible reaction. Aircraft remain secured below. Crews continue moving with routine purpose. Nothing is performed for the cameras. Nothing is done for show. But below deck, readiness has changed. The carrier's escorts, including destroyers and cruisers operating in support, are fully synchronized. Their sensors feed into the shared tactical picture, creating layered coverage around the Venezuelan formation from multiple angles. Every ship in the strike group sees the same situation at the same time. There are no blind spots. Electronic warfare teams quietly catalog every Venezuelan radar signal, pulse patterns, sweep intervals, power shifts, frequency behavior. What Venezuela sees as pressure is also exposure. Every second their systems transmit, they reveal more about themselves. On the bridge, the captain listens as the updates continue. Closest point of approach projections are updated again. The margin remains narrow, but still manageable. No order is given to change course. In the U.S. Navy, movement is communication, and every signal is chosen with care. A junior watch officer notes the situation. No change in their posture. Still holding intercept geometry. The reply is calm. Understood. Continue to log. The Venezuelan ships are now inside 3 nautical miles, close enough to identify them visually without optics, close enough for one poor judgment call to matter. Still, the carrier does not alter its line. This is not stubbornness, it is procedure. By maintaining a steady course, USS George Washington removes uncertainty from the situation. From this point on, any unsafe move is clearly on the other side. Responsibility becomes defined, documented, and easy to verify. Above the waterline, the scene looks almost ordinary. 5 ships, 1 carrier, open sea. But beneath the surface of that calm picture, the reality is very different. The carrier's systems are active in layers: defensive, informational, analytical. Not because a confrontation is expected, but because readiness is never optional. The Navy does not prepare in order to raise the temperature. It prepares so the temperature does not have to rise at all. A quiet confirmation reaches the Combat Information Center. External ISR platforms available on short notice. No details are spoken. None are needed. The meaning is clear. There are options, and options create leverage. Then the Venezuelan formation hesitates. Not enough to call it a withdrawal. Not enough to change the overall picture. But enough to be noticed. Their speed shifts slightly. Their courses are adjusted again, as though they are still searching for a reaction that never comes. They are pushing against silence. At sea, silence can be unsettling. It gives no emotion, no approval, no visible response to measure. It forces the other side to decide the next move without knowing exactly how that move will be received. The U.S. Navy understands that kind of silence better than most. The carrier continues forward. Water breaks cleanly along the bow. The wake remains steady. Every radar sweep, every course change, every second of the encounter is captured. Not for headlines, not for public drama, for the record. And inside that record, one fact is becoming clearer by the minute. The side applying pressure is not the side setting the terms. The side that remains steady is. The next moment does not arrive with noise. No alarm, no raised voice, no sudden movement. From the outside, nothing appears different. The carrier holds course. The sea remains calm. The Venezuelan ships continue their approach at a controlled speed, but inside the strike group, a quiet transition takes place. A single decision is made, not to escalate, not to intimidate, to clarify. Inside the Combat Information Center aboard USS George Washington, the order is short and deliberate. Authorize airborne presence. There is no urgency in the words, no drama, just intent. Minutes later, on the flight deck, the stillness begins to shift. Not into disorder, but into precision. An MH-60R Seahawk is brought topside. Its rotor blades begin turning slowly, then faster, cutting clean circles through the morning air. Deck crews move with practiced efficiency. Calm faces, exact motions, no wasted movement. This is not a scramble, it is a message. The helicopter lifts smoothly from the deck, rising just enough to clear the carrier's structure before turning outward. It does not rush forward. It does not make a dramatic pass. It moves toward the Venezuelan formation at a controlled altitude, staying well within established safety limits. Inside the Seahawk, its observation systems come online. Infrared sensors, high-resolution optics, range-finding equipment, clear, precise, and unmistakable. Every feed is live, every detail is recorded. From the Venezuelan ships, the helicopter is impossible to miss. A U.S. Navy aircraft, low and steady, approaching from the carrier's starboard side. No show of force, no dramatic posture, just presence. At 2 nautical miles, the Seahawk levels off. It does not cross directly over the ships. It does not make a low pass above their decks. It simply holds position. Then a narrow green beam appears briefly, controlled, deliberate, precise. It rests for a moment on the bridge area of the lead Venezuelan vessel, not as a danger signal, as a marker. You are seen. The radio message follows, calm and unmistakable. Venezuelan naval vessel. This is a United States Navy aircraft. You are conducting unsafe maneuvers in international waters. Your actions are being recorded. Alter course immediately. The message is then repeated in Spanish. For the first time since contact began, something changes. On the lead Venezuelan ship, movement becomes visible on the bridge. Figures step forward on the bridge. Binoculars come up. Then the first visible change appears in the water behind the lead vessel. Its bow wake begins to shrink. Speed drops by 1 knot, then by another. Across the Venezuelan formation, the effect spreads quietly. One ship eases off its intercept line. Another adjusts its heading just enough to create more distance. There is no sudden turn, no dramatic exit, no obvious retreat. But inside the Combat Information Center, the geometry changes. Updates move through the room in calm voices. Lead contact reducing speed, formation cohesion decreasing, closest point of approach increasing. The Seahawk holds position, maintaining a steady orbit. Its sensors remain focused. The imagery is sharp and detailed. Hull numbers, deck layouts, crew movement, bridge activity. Everything is captured, time-stamped, and stored. This is not a show of force. It is documentation made impossible to ignore. The helicopter does not stay longer than needed. After one final pass, wide, slow, and clear, it banks away and climbs back toward the carrier. Behind it, the Venezuelan ships no longer press forward. Their bows are no longer lined up to cross the carrier's path. Their formation begins to loosen, and the pressure fades step by step in a way that leaves little room for confusion. Back aboard USS George Washington, there is no celebration, no loud reaction, no commentary. The carrier never changed course. It never increased speed. It never acknowledged the shift in any visible way because the purpose was never to force a dramatic outcome. The purpose was to establish the boundary, and that boundary was understood. No dramatic escalation was needed. No direct contact was needed. No public display was needed. The message was delivered through calm control, clear awareness, and a complete record of everything that happened. As the Seahawk settles back onto the flight deck and its rotors begin to slow, the Venezuelan formation continues to drift away. The ships are still visible, still present, but they are no longer positioned to block the carrier's movement. The moment passes almost as quietly as it began. But from that point forward, the encounter is no longer in question. It has already been decided. When the distance starts to open, it happens without announcement. The Venezuelan ships do not all turn away at once. There is no sharp reversal, no dramatic break from the area. Instead, the separation grows gradually. Half a nautical mile, then another. Their course is spread just enough to remove the pressure without making the shift look too obvious. And that detail matters. Inside the Combat Information Center aboard USS George Washington, the tactical plot now shows what everyone already understands. The situation has moved from direct pressure to simple observation. The risk has dropped. The blocking geometry is gone. The carrier maintains course because now, more than ever, there is no reason to change it. The Seahawk is secured on deck. Its sensors are powered down. But the data remains. Every radar emission, every course adjustment, every moment of silence, every hesitation. All of it has been logged, not dramatized, not exaggerated, preserved. This is how the U.S. Navy closes an encounter at sea. It finishes the record. From a distance, the outcome may look uneventful. No dramatic exchange, no major public display, no visible response beyond a single helicopter. But at sea, outcomes are not measured by noise. They are measured by control of space, control of risk, and control of the story that remains afterward. On that scale, the outcome is easy to understand. Venezuela applied pressure in search of a reaction. The United States answered with discipline, removing uncertainty from the situation, one measured decision at a time. For a brief moment, the Venezuelan ships gained attention. But what they revealed in return was far more valuable. Their operating habits, their command behavior, their comfort level under pressure, their response to a calm but firm display of presence. They showed how far they were prepared to go, and just as importantly, where they were prepared to stop. For the U.S. Navy, that kind of information matters more than any headline. As the distance grows beyond 5 nautical miles, the Venezuelan formation settles onto a parallel course. Still nearby, still monitored, but no longer important to the carrier's movement. No further calls are made. None are needed. The carrier strike group continues along its planned route. Operations remain uninterrupted. Air wing schedules stay unchanged. Escort ships maintain their standard posture. Slowly, the sea returns to the quiet rhythm it had before the first radar contact appeared. But an encounter like this does not truly end when the ships move apart. It ends when the analysis begins. Later, the recorded data will be reviewed far from the Caribbean. Patterns will be compared. Assumptions will be tested. Future procedures will be sharpened by what was learned in those quiet minutes at sea. That process never stops. It is careful, constant, and mostly invisible to anyone who expects power to announce itself loudly. This is the reality of modern naval strength. It is not proven by who acts first. It is proven by who never has to. USS George Washington did not need to turn aside to make its position clear. It did not need to raise the tension to prove credibility. It simply held course, maintained presence, and allowed professionalism to carry the message. The Venezuelan ships approached a carrier strike group and learned something essential. They were not facing only one ship, they were facing an entire system. A system built to observe, assess, and control the situation without panic, without confusion, and without unnecessary movement. As the final range markers continue to climb and the contacts fade from immediate concern, the bridge watch rotates. Logs are completed, reports are secured. The carrier moves forward looking no different from any other day at sea. That is not coincidence. That is doctrine. Because when an encounter ends quietly, without concession, without confusion, and without the need for anything more, it means the balance of control was never truly in question. And out here, in international waters, that is the only result that matters.